You talk about giving information to each executive and to each manager in the organization so that they can make better and more timely decisions. Is that really possible? I mean, in most cases, a one-size-fits-all type of model doesn't really custom fit every situation, does it?
It doesn't. There's no way that it does, and it really can't. It doesn't even fit two companies that are in the same exact industry. And that's the problem with solving this performance puzzle. You know, the Power Grid methodology loosely falls under what we would call enterprise performance management. And that's the use of technology to really give better information to managers and now all the way down to knowledge workers throughout the organization. But the problem with that theory, and it's really the second most prevalent theory in business today, the first being, of course, Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. So that means more money spent on this than anything except Sarbanes-Oxley compliance. But the problem with it is that one size does not fit all, and that's the way it's traditionally tried to be applied. You can't simply copy off the paper from the organization next to you, even if they're in your own industry, and expect to achieve your objectives. You know, Ford and GM and Toyota all want the same strategic thing: you to buy their car the next time you go out to shop. But how they get there are very, very different. You know, Toyota may be focusing on things from a quality perspective. You might have some of the lower cost automobile manufacturers approaching it from a low cost standpoint. So it's not about copying somebody else's model. So what we've done with the Power Grid is say that what you need is a process that takes you from where you are today to this end utopia state that we're talking about, where operational effectiveness and efficiency produces great financial results. People get information they need in a timely manner. We focus on the future, not the past. So the Power Grid is like that counselor, like the bumpers on the side of the road that help you go down the road and prevent you from going into the ditch or the potholes that we've learned that are there from so many years of doing this.
In your book, David, you use the analogy of an electrical power grid. And maybe I don't get it. Unless there's a catastrophe, isn't the flow of energy something that we take for granted?
Yeah, that's the analogy, and you hit the nail right on the head, Becky. We do come to work and take it for granted. When I came to work today, I brought my laptop, I plugged it in, I expected it to come on, and I never really stopped to think about what's happening. You know, we tend to view power or energy as an endless resource, but we find out each summer that it's really not. It's a limited resource, and the analogy follows that energy or power within our organizations is really the same thing. It is an exhaustible resource, whether that's people's time, their effort, their energy, or we just burn them out completely and they go elsewhere. So what we need behind the scenes is a power grid that operates and takes power from the places that don't need it, and refocus it in on the places that actually do. If we get employees focusing on the proper areas, then we don't need as much total power in the organization. Properly focused, we can achieve what we want. It's the confusion in today's environments, the lack of knowing where we really need to focus that is such a drain on employees.
Well, you talk about enterprise performance management. I'm curious, is that the same thing as enterprise resource management?
Enterprise performance management really focuses in on how are you going to manage. It's a management methodology, and certainly technology is a key component of it, but it really isn't related to resource management. It's more related to the schools of business intelligence or management by metrics, or even the old executive information systems from 20 or more years ago.
You know, David, when you say business intelligence, I think about technology. I know that our viewers' organizations already have a lot of systems in place. Are you suggesting that they ought to install even more systems?
Well, there are a lot of systems in place in organizations, abundance of systems. Most of those systems focus on processing transactions. And that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about using data which is generated by transactional systems to actually create information. And that's what you can use to actually make decisions. The shocking thing is that most organizations already own this technology. It's simply about using it in a different way, focusing people differently through the use of technology. So for most of the bigger organizations today, it's not about going out and buying new technology. It's about taking a look at what you need from an information standpoint, and then taking a look at what you already own and what you have in-house, and can that be leveraged? That's the process we go through when we work with clients. And certainly, they have the option to do that. Just take a look at what they have in-house. But all of these technologies, and even the transactional technologies that you have in place today, the ERPs, they're constantly focusing on how do we take all this data that we collect when we process transactions and turn it into information, because BPM or EPM is really the wave of the future. So it's really about leveraging what you have as opposed to adding a bunch of new technology. One of the byproducts of the process is usually simplifying the number of applications you have in-house, and of course there's a return to simplifying the environment.